develop on a local server, or did you connect with a remote server? We try to integrate everything together, so it doesn't really matter how your development is set up. Usually you do have separate targets, so to speak. Everything is defined in a different target. Usually you are developing on a local server, local target, and eventually you have a remote server that you deploy your site when it's all ready. And in a local server, you have your connection just locally. Currently, in this sample, I'm using Docker as my local development server because it's really easy. You can set up everything automatically. You don't have to install any web server or database server to get your project up and running. Docker does that for you. You just have to choose what kind of web server do you like to run and what kind of database server you want. So once you have done that, yeah, Docker starts that for you, and you can get directly to work with your databases. So I've started a local Docker in this example. That is the different when you click on your connection here, the database, the DB connection is automatically defined when you use Docker. It's already there for you and it's all local, so I don't have to use direct connection. What is a direct connection? There was a little bit confusion in the beginning. That is when you want to connect remotely to your server directly, so to speak. So if you're using a Navigator or other tools, they usually connect to your database server directly. So this is what we mean by direct connection. You're connecting straight to a remote server. In our case here, I'm working locally, so I don't have to define a direct connection. Every connection here has also a specific server connection, because eventually my web server needs to access the same database. So yeah, usually before that you have to go in server connect, add a connection, and define it all there. But yeah, we simplified thing, and the same dialog that is also available in server connect. For example, let me see if you have a server connect action. There is a database connection, and yeah, it's exactly the same dialog for your access to the database from within server connect. But as we're defining a global connection for your project, you can edit this straight from the database manager actually. So there I can define it, how it's going to be on my website later on. But furthermore, once you define those connections, the database manager will show you directly the structure of your database, or if you don't have any structure yet, it will show you just empty tables. But here, yeah, we try to make it as simple as possible. Because what is all the database about is just about storing data. So you're just making tables containing your data, and well, you can now also make relations between the tables. So you can very easily create a new table, or if you are opening if you're using an existing table, you can adjust it with new fields for reference, or even edit the data directly, which I wouldn't recommend to do straight away, but it might be helpful. The primary goal of the database manager is to manage your structure in your database, so that you are always in sync with your latest changes, and that you can push those changes to your live site later on when you're done with them. So we made it pretty simple. Each table has its own properties. Currently, the table itself has just a name, but we are planning to add some more here. But on each column that you have in the database, you can see the field properties. You can already see on the icon what kind of field that is, but you can also select it from the field type. So if you are making a new columns, it's really easy. You just choose the field type, the name, and your field is ready to go. Maybe for the demo, I'll just create a new table. Let me see. What do we need here? Let me see what we want to keep. We have users, cars, countries, maybe some products. So you're making a table. You can see directly here on the icons behind that it's a new table actually, and you can see there that I have some changes pending. So everything that you do right now is not saved yet. It's just collected for applying later on. So I can add in the table, I can add a field. Usually each table has its own unique identifier. And in the database manager, there is a convenient field for it. It's called increments. And increments is actually kind of all-in-one identifier field, because it makes a number of it. It automatically increments it for you, and makes sure it's unique and everything that is needed for identifying your table data. Let me add another one. Product, let's go with the title. This one is string. I'll just leave it to standard. You can pick up from also different types. You can say it's integer, string. The difference between string and text is that string is usually a short, kind of string that you can even specify maximal length. And text is for large content and more data that you need to store in there. And you have some other fields like Boolean time, date time, etc. We try to make the field types actually more generic and not so much database specific, because with the database manager, we try to build a higher level of abstraction than the working straightly in your database, because we try to be as portable as possible. So, and we didn't really want to bother you, the user, with too specific database stuff. We didn't want you to use the specific database types, because they are very much dependent on the database you use. We try to make them as logical as possible, so that they are easy to understand. So you can actually create different types of fields, and it will work with any database that we support. So it doesn't matter if you're using MySQL or Postgres or MariaDB, it will all work exactly the same. We even added a comment field, especially for Anthony, because you can indeed keep comments on database fields as well. You don't have to keep the comments in your code because they will be stored in a database structure. You can add more fields like this. Description, we can make it a larger field. And you see all the changes are still pending for me. So when you try, and here is the count, is keeping increasing depending on all the changes that I make. So you can keep on making changes like this, and eventually when you're done with your current changes, you can go and save them. This will make like an apply checkpoint of your changes. So this is a pretty important step because you're collecting your changes, you really want to apply them now, and you can give that changes exactly a good name. So we'll just describe our changes till now. This is pretty important because this will be saved as a change file that you can later on apply to your live servers again and again, or at least once till it's done. But this is like marking a change that you can apply, but also revert as well. This is actually more powerful than what you are normally doing with other database managers, because there the changes are kind of final. You cannot really revert them if you make mistakes. And here you're storing the changes, but you're also storing a way back. So with each change is made, a file is also saved of what it was before. So you can always revert a change even if it's applied to a live database. And yeah, this is really important when you are updating multiple databases later on. So let me see if that will work. Yeah, you see a nice tooltip below database change applied. And my changes are actually applied directly. This is my new table. All the marks are now gone, and the database is updated with this change. You can actually see all your changes here below. This is a list of all the changes that I've made in this database till now. And this is the latest one. And you can see here with the mark that all the changes are green. This means they are all applied. And my latest one that I just added is also applied, and that's the current version of my database, so to speak. So all those changes are in there, and my current is already applied. If you hover, you see also a timestamp of when the change has been applied. And you can actually right-click on such a change and, well, just undo it. So this is actually a very cool way to undo your changes. Let me do that. So I undo this change, and the table that I've just created is gone actually. And you can see now the change is there, but it's now orange because it's not done. And I can simply click on it and just, yeah, redo it, apply it again. You can actually also open such a change file if you're really interested in how this is all done. You don't have to, but to just give you some insight of what's happening here, I can open the change in the editor. And all the changes are actually stored as JavaScript files, and are based on the framework that we're using. It's called Knex. The framework is actually kind of cross-platform driver to your database. So it creates all JavaScript actions to apply your changes to the database. And the good thing is that it keeps exactly what's being modified. You can actually see it in the up action. The up action is what's been done, and in down action is how do I revert it. So it's kind of in the SQL language that you normally are used to. You can this is eventually always translate to SQL, by the way, but it's more abstracted on a higher level. And you can see here that yeah, a table is being created, and the fields that I've added are automatically put in there. And if I decide to revert it, well, I just have to drop that table. So this is what Wappler is actually executing for you. And I can just apply this change again. And there is my table is there applied as well. This is also the same thing what you'll be doing when you want to apply your changes to your live database. For suppose this is my development database, and eventually I'm done with all my changes and I want to go to my live server and apply those changes to my live server. So in this case, I don't really have a live server, but I have just another Docker image, but let's pretend that's my live server. So just switch to it. Switching servers is just done by switching targets, because each target is your different environment. So as I said, you have a local target. This is what we actually mean by this usage. You can just choose per target. Is it my development target or is it my production target? And usually if you are having a live site that you want to keep on running and only change when it's all done, then you mark it as the production site. So in this case, I'll just mark my second Docker image as a production site. Currently, we don't really use that field yet. It's just for your own information. But eventually, we want to move to a new publishing way that we want to ensure more strict publish to your live sites and not just upload few files and hope that everything goes well. So we'll be fine-tuning our publishing later on, and the type of the target will become more important there. So you don't change your live sites accidentally, as you can do now by just changing the target and uploading stuff to it. So to show you more about the publishing to the live target, I'll just choose my other Docker image, and it will just switch my Docker engines. I can select, because the Docker was a little bit offline, so it doesn't find the database, but once I refresh, I'll see my remote database, so to speak. And you see that I have this almost the same structure. It's actually our sample Docker structure. And there you can see exactly the same changes that that I've done till now. But on my live server, the last change is not done yet, because my live server is not updated yet. So to simply just update the live server, I have to run this change. Or even if you can have multiple changes pending. So if you are busy, you're not publishing every single change, you collect them together with a whole update of your live site. So you can either choose apply latest changes that will apply all the pending changes, or if you want to apply a specific change, you can do that. It's very important to note that all those changes are actually, this is exactly what you see on the tooltip, they are time-stamped. So you cannot apply change that is made later on, and there are other changes in front of it. So you have to apply them sequentially, because each change can depend on the previous one. And but this is actually what the apply latest changes does. It goes through all the pending changes and just applies them to you. So if I want to synchronize this live database that I'm now on, I'll just say apply latest changes, and voila, they will be applied. And on my live database, I have the same table that I've made on my local development database. and the structure is synchronized. So I can now go and yeah, publish also my files that I've changed maybe, and my live server will be all up and running with the latest changes. So this is a really easy database structure update way that we implemented now in the database manager. So it's not only about making your own database schema and your structure, but also about publishing it in a good structural way to your live servers. So yeah, this is primarily our goal. There are, of course, other things. For example, that I think there was a question from Ben. How do you manage all the relations? We try to keep it as simple as possible, and relations are actually currently just references. For example, in my orders, I have a field that that points to my user, and the user table is a little bit further on. So to make a relation between the orders and the user, I'll just create a reference field and indicate it goes to the users table, and my key in the users table is an ID key. So the relation is then automatically created. Any needed foreign keys, what you normally also create manually, will be all done for you. So we actually made it very simple. You are just focusing on creating the fields that you need and the relations between the tables as easy as possible. Of course, there are more fancy, complicated relations. The one that we are now creating is actually one-to-many relation because one user can have like many orders. So this is the most common user of relations. But later on, we'll be adding more relation types like many-to-many or other ones to tackle more the needs. But we'll be keeping them as simple as possible to make the database design just plain easy, even for the new users, so that you just think of the tables as the data that you want to store and just enter the columns that you need to keep, and you can always add more or think of new things. And when relations are done, they are really easy to implement. So yeah, this is kind of 95% of all the stuff that you ever need in databases. So we made it just as simple as possible so that everybody can get around of it. And of course, there are complex scenarios in databases. But yeah, we try to integrate everything, like the identity values with all the automatically increment is just incremental type, and it's done. The reference, the one-to-many relations is just include a reference. Later on, if we add the many-to-many relation, that you usually have to go really complex to create a subtable that will include all the fields. We'll just make a multiple reference in our case, and the many-to-many relation will be created automatically. So yeah, we try to keep it as simple as possible, but yet very, very powerful. So yeah, maybe if you have some questions in the meantime, that's, yeah.
Thank you, George. That's amazing. And I think, you know, I get a sense that probably quite a lot of us are like, wow, we've learned so much in so little time. So really appreciate your demo. I'm seeing some hands on the various video screens. Brian's going to leave us. So thanks for coming, Brian. Who'd like to ask a question then? John, I can see your hand very boldly up. Everyone's got questions. Let's start with John then.
Thanks for that, George. You've already converted me. So I was 50-50, and I can see a massive advantage in this of making changes locally and then sending them to your other targets. Two questions, if I may. One is, you showed the fields drop down and you said you've deliberately made it non-database specific, but I just wonder whether or not we could have, just in brackets, the equivalent for the type of database that we're using. For argument's sake, where you've got string, having brackets varchar, because just so I can be absolutely sure I have picked the right one. And the other question I've got is, what would happen if I make a structural change to the database outside of Wappler? So I create a new field in a table in Navicat or PHPMyAdmin or whatever. What would Wappler then do when next time I push changes or make changes?
Well, to answer those questions, actually, Wappler fetches always the, if you press the refresh button over here, it will always fetch the latest schema straight from your database. So it will connect your database and get the latest information from there. So if there are any changes in your database structure made by external tool, you just need to refresh it, and they will just pop in. Of course, yeah, if you're going to synchronize thing and suddenly your synchronization is expecting some theme that you have deleted with the other tool, well, problems might arise. But if you have no pending changes, you can simply refresh the schema and everything will pop up. To answer your other question about the exact type, we have actually two options for that. We haven't yet fully implemented because it's still under development, but you can even, if you really want some kind of exotic database specific field, you can go for the native type and then enter your really exact database type that you want. But we're kind of trying to avoid that. Your question was, yeah, how we can see what type of field it goes. Well, you cannot see it right now because, yeah, we really like to to keep the things under our type. So yeah, you cannot see that. We do plan to split actually the view a little bit, because we realize there are some really beginners, people who don't really care about primary keys or foreign keys and database really specific stuff, and people that do. So we are planning, actually, we are playing with the idea to split the database manager kind of in two views. To give you an example of that, you can see what we've done with our team manager, for example. And here on top, we have two views of team manager. You have, sorry, you have the basic view, which gives you actually the very basic that you kind of almost want to change. And you have an advanced view, which is pretty advanced. So usually only if you know what you're doing, you go to advanced mode and change one of those things. So we kind of think to do the same with the database manager. Currently, what you see is actually kind of something in the middle, because you see almost everything. You see the keys, you see the relations, you see the database specific stuff, like do we allow nulls, and yeah, we'll probably even put more properties in there. But we want to limit that in two kind of views. One will be a basic view, which you will just filter your view in the very basic stuff that you just need to see as a beginning user. So, for example, it's not interesting to see what your primary keys are. You're just interested in, I have tables, and those are the fields that that I want to use. And numbers of the field types, for example, are now way beyond the ones that a beginner will use. A beginner will just usually be more concerned of am I storing text, number, or date, and that's it. And the advanced users want to see more, for example. So we kind of want to filter the view in a basic and advanced users. And when you are on advanced mode, then you see all the detailed properties and maybe indeed the database specific type. But also things like, for example, the engine that the table is on in MySQL, because yeah, for some of the advanced users that might be important. For example, if you use a very old engine in MySQL, like MyISAM, it doesn't support relations, and we kind of tackle that within the database managers, that you have to use the new engine to be able to make relations between your table, otherwise it won't work. So we try to simplify it for you, and we'll be even simplified more. But in the advanced view, you'll be able to see more detailed database results. So this is the idea, actually. Does that answer?
It does, yeah. Thank you very much. Very exciting.
Thank you. Thank you, George, for answering that. And John, thank you for the question. I've got a question that relates to some of the things you just said, George. So the first part you talked about with reading in the changes you've made, for example, in Navicat. Mm-hmm. What I'm thinking I'd want to do is when those are read in, I'd want the database manager to create a change list on the difference between what was in the database manager before I imported and what was in the database manager after I imported, so that I could then apply that change list to my production database. I hope that makes sense. Is that going to be a possibility?
Well, it's a good idea. We haven't thought of that yet, but we were playing with some ideas indeed to do more database synchronization, especially because you already will have an existing database and you have a starting point from there. And the current changes flow actually starts from very beginning of your first change of the database. But if you already have existing one, then it's good to have a starting point. I think that was one of the suggestions that John made in the forum, is to mark a change as a ground zero, so to speak. So if you import your database or you pick up the new changes, you should be able to say, well, this is my starting point now. What was the change needed, and go on from there. So yeah, we are definitely getting into that and see how it goes. Yeah.
That's great. And I've got one final question kind of related to that. Certainly when I work with bubbles, sometimes I would, for example, add a new field in a table, mm-hmm. and then want to populate that field for all of the data that's already in the database with either a copy of another field or, depending on some other field, a couple of different values. So I guess in terms of this methodology, I'd be looking to actually potentially add to that exports.up functionality.
Well, that is actually what we are planning with the so-called seeds.
Oh, okay.
It's not there yet, but actually what you can do is, I think, let me see, you can already, if you edit, there is a live data editing, at least currently is view only, but the idea is to open a table, enter some data manually. You can go change the data here, for example. The save isn't working yet, so don't try that yet. But the idea is to allow you to do some modifications, maybe populate a new data. For example, if it's a new table, you want to add some new columns of new data in it. And you can either choose to save it straight to your database, or maybe mark that as a seed. So this data will be used later on your live database as a initial data, so to speak. So this is where seeds will be coming in place. And just like changes, you'll be able to keep up different seeds that will be the population of your data. And just like changes, you see a whole list of seeds here, all named as you wish. For example, initial data for login users, or initial products, or whatever initial data that you want. You can make it with seeds. That's the idea of seeds. So this will give you a head start, not only with migrations, but also with starting up a whole new project and initializing your database with already some existing data.
Oh,
And,
that's brilliant.
the same as structure, later on you'll be able to apply additional seeds to your database, to your live databases as well.
And just final question then on seeds, will they be conditional? So could I say if field A is 1, then field B will get a value of banana, and if field A is 0, field B will now get a value of apple?
No, I don't think so. That will be a way to come. You should see seeds as a data import.
Okay.
And it's like yeah, importing a data, and those will be just data dumps, so to speak, in pretty much the same structure. If you want to look it up how seeds works, I'll suggest to go explore the Connects.js site, and they explain the methodology of migrations and seeds. And migrations is what we call now changes, actually, because I feel like change is more logical name than migrations, but okay. When you migrate from one local database to remote, migrations might be a better name, but yeah, we name them changes. And seeds, it's it's the data that you'll be populating, and the same you can apply that data to various servers. So that is what the seeds is about. Jumping on maybe onto the future, I want to enlighten you a little bit more about what we eventually plan to do more than just creating databases. Because it's nice to have your database structure well organized, your live sites synchronized as well. But what we want to do much more is actually give you much better head start in making new projects or extending your new projects. And the database structure it's a very essential core thing of your app. It defines how your app is actually organized later on, what the user sees as a data. So we think that the database is such a central thing in your application that we'll be using it more and more to automate things within, automate creations, new feature in your application as well. To explain what I mean is that, for example, currently we have things like a table generator, a form generator that got populated with some Server Connect data and automatically generate a form or a table of a specific query. Actually, we want to do that from the very core of the database schema. We want to let you define here not only how your database looks like, but also eventually how those fields will look on your website or app. So we'll be adding later on more visual representation as well. So you can, for the specific database fields, not only define how they are stored in your database, but also how they look on your website later on. And so you can say, well, this is my description, and it's It's like a type string, but on my website, eventually I want to use a summer node for it and make a rich text editor out of it. Or I have a file field here, and eventually on my website, I want to have a file upload from it that is stored in some field. So we'll be adding much more meta definitions to your databases than just the core data. And from this meta data, we'll actually be able to much more generate automatically your applications later on. So it's not only about storing your structure, but also about storing much more than that. And you'll be able to choose the visual representations of field, but also the enforcements, the validation types. Like now you have to supply your own validations on the client side, on the server side, how those fields have to be, the data has to be validated before it's stored in the database. So it's a lot of separated validations. For example, if you pick an action, let me see if I have something here. A server-side action that receives some form, for example, I can enter here validation rules to validate the input of this server-side action. And on my front end, on my website, I have built a form that actually is going to have to validate exactly the same things. So I have like two validations on the client side, front side, and on the server side, the validation rules that we have. But what we really want to do is integrate that at one place, and make the database like the single point of truth, the source of everything, and allows you to define at the very core of your database structure what the fields looks like eventually and how they are validated. So, so you can choose there your validation, and eventually when generating tables or forms later on, this core validation will be picked up from the source and applied to your various forms that you'll be creating later on. So that's why it's really, we feel that the database manager was till now the missing piece of everything, and we can finally define the very core of your application, and from there be able to allow you to generate much more standard things because, well, you have everything defined that it's needed on a very high level, so to speak. So that's a little bit jump on the future, what we eventually plan to do more with the database manager. So it starts with creating your basic structure, but eventually we'll be doing much more with it to automate things much better, and how to generate forms and tables and complete actually sites based on the information that you have created here. So you'll be seeing it much more extending in the future updates with more and more functionality. What you now see is just the basic structure editing, but more options will be coming in later.
Wow, George, that sounds amazing. I'm sure there's some pretty exciting faces here. Ben, would you like to ask a question?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Loud and clear.
Yeah, good. I've got two questions for you, George. One is, at the moment we can't create a database. Is that going to be done in the future? And the other one is, when we go to Server Connect, we have to specify the database each time. Will that be automated through this?
Yeah, just for the database creation, well, that's kind of server specific what you're using. If you're using Docker, actually the database will be automatically created for you. You just specify in the target Docker options what kind of database and your database name. If you're using a hosting, shared hosting, well, you have to go to your admin panel and create a database first, and then just connect to it. But it doesn't have to be really fancy thing. You just have to create it somewhere first. We cannot just create a new database from within Wappler, because we don't have access to your full hosting yet. We do have access with Docker, because we control pretty much everything in Docker. But yeah, it depends on your hosting. There must be a database already existing. As for Server Connect, yeah, we are slowly getting there indeed. Once we finalize the database manager, you see that we already have made some integrations in there. So you can already manage the Server Connect database connection straight from the database manager. So eventually we'll really want to yeah, remove all the editing options in here, and you can just choose from the database connections that you've defined with the database manager. So this will make it much more easier to maintain. We could even skip the whole database connection step and well, just let you choose which database you're doing a query, which connection do you want to use, and you can pick up just like now from the existing database step. So we're going to make it more and more easier indeed. And yeah, we try to make things more general. Database manager is the first step, but we are thinking of making more configuration editors, so to speak, because for each target that you use, your local development or your remote target, you have a set of settings that you have to apply. And every target has its own settings, because your local development, for example, has different IP addresses or whatever other settings to your local database than the real life server. It has a complete set of other settings. So, but your database is still, the database connection is still exactly the same. So this is what actually changes when you switch targets. When you switch target here, you go to the database connection to the different target, and then you can edit the specific settings there. But you'll see more and more global things actually coming in, because we'll be implementing more and more global connection properties that are target dependent. For example, if in your Server Connect you want to use to send emails, now it was the same like with databases. You have to define a connection first to your mail server and then send that mail. But we want to centralize things much more better and let them specify once in your project settings. Well, I have a project that use PHP and use this database, and then per target just enter the specific target settings. But everything should be generally defined once, and then just pick up those connections. So which database you're using, what is your mail server, general things, and then you can define the specific settings per target, but then switching and using them will be as easy as possible. So we're getting there, and yeah, this will be more like a global configuration management. So each environment that you are switching, each target environment will have its own set of settings. And we already done that with the database manager. Once you switch targets, the connections are automatically swapped. So you're working with the right connection that goes to the right target. But as I said, there will be more options coming up as well.
That's amazing to hear what's coming, George. Thank you. I'm just keeping an eye on the time, and we're just a few minutes from the point where we said we'd end. So I just wanted to see if anyone else wants to ask a particular question to you, George, while you're here. I don't know if I can see everybody's face actually at the moment.
I think Neil waves a little bit.
Are you waving, Neil? You're muted as well. Hang on, I'll unmute you. There you go. Oh, no, I haven't. Right, here we go. Fire away, Neil.
Waving to myself. Right, thank you. George, that was really good insight into the database management and also your thoughts for the future. It looks really good. I've got a couple of questions and a couple of comments just to make. John asked before about putting an answer to John's question is, can we have a cross-reference table put into the document so that you can see what MySQL's version of different things, you know.
Actually, just to jump on the same question, all the types that we are using are actually based on the library that we use for database synchronization under it, as I said, Connect.js. So the exact database types are already listed in there.
Well, there you go, John.
So actually, if you just looked up, for example, let me see the schema builder. So you have like, for example, decimal field, and it says a decimal. This is what you're able to choose from our interface. It's a column, and it says exactly for the different databases how it's stored, and you can see the different database things here. For example, date and time. In MySQL, there is no time zone option, but in Postgres there is. So you find all the difference in there. And string, yeah, you can find that. Yeah, I don't see the specific var type, but usually you see the length. And the text, for example, is an interesting one because the text, yeah, there is a specific database text field and long text and a medium text, so it depends on the database that you're using. You can switch here in the documentation. There are the different databases that you are using. So, and the documentation will automatically actually adjust to that specific database. So, if there are some things, you should be able to see it actually. But all the types are listed here, and we just yeah, use exactly the same. The only type that you won't see is the reference type. Yeah, this is the type that doesn't really exist because reference, yeah, it's like, yeah, it's actually a numeric, an integer field, but we defined a reference and a relation in one. So this is the whole difference, so to speak.
Okay, but, well, that's great. I think that's what John wanted, really, was to find that information, and it would be useful for everyone, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. Another thing is where you've just mentioned then about the field properties. You've got the on update and on delete. So obviously the foreign key constraints, etc. Once all that's set up, is there, or would there be a way to see an overall picture? And I don't mean necessarily a picture, but even if it was just words, where we could print it out and have a record of all the relationships between the different tables.
Well, we could eventually just like an idea for the future. We're actually planning to support much more visual editors within Wappler. So currently we don't have a specific editor of that, but currently you're using the tabs here with the different for editing your pages with the structure and everything. But yeah, if you're opening, for example, I'm not sure if I have an image here, but yeah, if you open an image, you'll see actually the image editor. Well, it's not an editor yet, that you see the image, but we plan for in the future to extend Wappler with much more custom editors. So one such a visual editor, or at least viewer, might be indeed generating a graphical overview of your database and relation that you can just open straight from your database manager and just view it there, and maybe print it indeed, see the relations. But those are ideas we are playing on to extend more and more in the future indeed. It all depends on your needs, but we have to finalize the core first, so that we have it all working, and then we'll make it nicer and nicer. The same is actually what we eventually plan to do with the Server Connect actions and the new Flow App Connect Flow actions. We want to make more visual editors for them as well, because currently the Server Connects, everything is tree-based here, but we want to have a more bigger visual editor as well.
Okay.
So you can really clearly see the whole hierarchy and make it more visual than it is now. So in the future version, I don't say it will be in the very short term, but maybe in the next major version we'll much more expand in visual representation of all the flow and other structures that we already have, and then we can add more visual representations of a database structure as well. So a lot of plans for the future, and so little time to do.
Thanks for
One
that.
final thing, if I may. Sorry, Anthony.
No, that's all right. Go ahead, Neil.
One thing that does interest me, though, with regard to creating databases, is every database table I do, I always have a common set of fields. For instance, you know, data created, data modified, etc. And I typically have a list of 9. I could show it on the share a screen, but I'm sure you understand what I mean. So I have data order, data security, data version, data active, data editor, data created, data modified, data from, and data to. All right. So we have that big list, but it's in every table. Is there a way that we can copy and paste into each new table?
What I was actually planning for that is to introduce the so-called table templates, so that you can currently the only way is to create a new table, but here I really want to add much more ready-to-go templates. For example,
ideal.
That you want to create a block table or products list or whatever, and that you can have a full list of, maybe later on you'll be able to just say, well, save this table as a template, and then later on you can just reapply it, so you can reuse your own stuff.
Brilliant.
This is one of the ideas that we are planning to go into as well. So this will make it much more easier for us.
Well.
Sorry?
Sorry, could that include records as well? I'm thinking of a table, for instance, with countries or with counties or something that you use a lot.
Good idea. Yeah, because we noticed, for example, that if you're setting up a new site and you need a new login system and you want to use like the security provider, it's always difficult to start, because we expect you to have some database in place, keeping the users and stuff like this. Until now, we couldn't really automate this process of making a login system, because we don't know what you had for database till now. But now that we have the database definition inside Wappler, we can go and extend much more and automatically create a structure that we think it might be useful for you, and then on top of it, create much more things automatically. So for example, if we eventually have a login system ready to go, we can just say, well, go to the database, right click and say, well, add all the tables that I need for a login system. And then you suddenly have all the required fields. And for us, it's also easier, because later on, when we have the generators for the user interface, we know, oh, the table, the database looks like this. so we know what to generate. And yeah, till now it was really difficult to automatically generate because we kind of open it for everything, and yeah, that makes it difficult because one can have the users in a certain way set up, the other one in different, and we have to be prepared for everything. So that's why all the manual work in creating a login system right now is because you have to bind it with your own data as you set it up till now. But we really want to automate these things more, and I said, well, just add a users table and from there generate a login system for it. So it will be much more easier to automatically generate things in the future than now, because we can automate the whole process, so to speak.
George, thank you so much for that perspective. I'm really aware that we've run kind of 10 minutes over the time that we said, and you know, people may be wanting to get some sleep or get some food or get a drink or whatever they feel they need. So I'm feeling like we should be wanting to wrap it up. George, thank you so much for the demo and for taking, you know, what I sensed was some extra time to answer all our questions. You know, on behalf, I'm sure, of everyone else, I want to give my thanks to you for that. It would be really nice. I can't actually, George, would you mind undoing the screen share now? Just so I can see everyone. Woohoo. Oh, there's more people here than I thought. So it would be nice, perhaps just for 2 minutes maximum, just not each, just in total, just to get a sentence from you in terms of how useful that's been, maybe one thing you've taken away, just some perspective from you, which is a kind of like a little wrap up. But keep it just to one sentence so we can all go and get that sleep or drink or whatever we need.
I'll start. Brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you, Neil. Yeah, let's do it popcorn. Just pop in when you're ready.
Okay.
Exactly the same as Neil, and let's have more of these.
Mm.
Yeah.
Thanks, John.
I loved it. I think the concept that George had about the basic and advanced is perfect. That would really work for me. Keeps everyone happy and keeps me happy. So yeah, fantastic.
Great.
Yeah, I thought it was great too. Thank you very much for that.
You're very welcome, Ben.
Thanks.
One quick thing for Marcus.
Okay.
PouchDB was the off
Yeah,
sync.
I got it
Okay.
actually opened on my browser indeed. PouchDB is indeed yeah, actually we kind of have it already ready, but we'll keep you in intention for the future because we want to get the database manager ready first, and then we'll keep on much more advanced synchronization. And but it will be coming up, so you'll be able to synchronize things much more easier.
Great. Anyone who hasn't spoken want to say a closing sentence?
Well, just to say, it was very useful. It's a slight problem getting ideal time for everybody. Unfortunately, my most important customer rang and I couldn't really, so I had to go for a little bit. I mean, it's probably impossible to get something that suits two sides of the world or all sides of the world. But anyway, but I found it very useful and good to meet you all.
Yeah, thank you.
Great, thanks, Tom. Well, I've recorded the demo as well, so you can all
great.
Look at the
Great.
Anyone else want to make a closing sentence?
I would if I could get on here.
We can hear you, but you're slightly distant.
Yeah, despite the distance. I just want to thank you for taking the time to get yourself involved in Zoom, because as a beginner in this business, we need the help of somebody who can see what we're trying to explain our problem to be by immediately transmitting it and not having to go through 15 cycles of going back and forth with the people who are trying to help us. This is going to, I think, make you much more efficient at bringing people aboard.
That's
That's
great.
it.
Thank you, John. Thanks for that perspective. And yeah, I just want to say it's just been amazing. I've just loved seeing you all. I feel I know Database Manager and where it's going in infinite more detail than I could have done before. So thank you. Great. Well, I will call this to a close. Final, very quick. Ooh, okay. Really quick word, John.
Really quick request to George, just to ponder on. When the weekly releases come out, maybe a 5-minute or 10-minute, either a Zoom or a video or something, just to take us through, because I see the list of features and then think, well, hang on, where? Oh, I can't find that. And then I wait for the following day's email and see that animated GIF and something that just a little bit more than that, then we can really run with the changes.
Brilliant.
Yeah, well,
Thank you,
I think we should try to make maybe more of those Zoom meetings. I do have to say I like them also as well, and I like to see the immediate responses as well. So maybe I'll pick a webcam next time, so you can also see me as well. And but it was easier for the screen share now to go like this. And yeah, Thursday is really a very, very busy day for us, pushing to the limits to get this update out and hoping we don't break too much. So that's a hard day, but usually on Friday we can enlighten more of what we have done and stuff like this. So it's a good day to go, and it will be helpful for us because if we have this a steady number of users like you that grasp the ideas initially, you can go and promote it and explain it more into the community as well. So we don't have to keep repeating ourselves and answering some really, for us, basic stuff, because we really want to go further and further on the next level. So yeah, that's, I think such a Zoom meeting is indeed a very good idea. And for us, it's also easier to communicate as well, because yeah, we don't have to write down the huge change log. Well, we write it down anyway, but explain it in more easier to grasp sentences. So yeah, I think it's a good idea to keep up.
Good. Glad that's really worked for you, George. Mark, final word from Marcus, because I saw your hand up. You're muted.
No, I was just saying thumbs up. It's been an absolute pleasure. I love this format as well. Yeah, and I'm already excited about the next one.
Good show. Great. Thank you all so much. Have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you.
See you all again
Thank you.
soon. Okay, bye.
Thanks, Anthony.